Hi, Pam. How are you?
Hello, Sharrell. How are you? I'm doing good.
I didn't mean to call you Pam. Are you comfortable with me calling
Yeah,
you? Okay.
Pam Esquires. Usually I go by Pam.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of
I
course.
really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
So I found out about your channel. It's called, what's it called?
It's called Pam Esquire, the Law Intellect.
So I found out about your channel through Conscious TV, who's a friend of mine. Shout out to Conscious.
Yeah.
And I fell in love.
Oh.
I fell in love for a couple of reasons. Is I love having attorneys on YouTube now that can break down the legal terms and things we don't understand. So I was thankful that you did that because I had access to the papers. I was like, what does this mean? And then second of all, I was tickled pink that you're covering the bishop. Okay, he's got a lot going on.
He does. He does. And when I started covering him, honestly, okay, after the robbery, what made me start, just for everybody to know, and I have several videos on him, is that he kept making the comment of I was illegally incarcerated. So one of the things that I do in my practice is I deal with wrongful convictions. So I was like, oh my gosh, he was illegally incarcerated. First of all, I don't even know what illegally incarcerated means. Usually you're just
Yeah,
wrongfully convicted and you get exonerated if that's the case. So I go and I start digging up some of the transcripts and I was like,
yeah.
nah.
Like you believe he was incarcerated, but you'll drop the illegal part. Yeah.
Wait a minute. It was such strong language by the judge when he went, like many people know, he served 6 years, I believe it was, in Sing Sing for a string of identity theft. And at that time, they had labeled it as one of the largest identity theft rings in Suffolk County
Oh my
when it
God.
happened. And so all this is in the documents, and he came in there and he had the same attitude that you see him now with on
Mhm.
the internet. Of He came in, they said, with his priest collar, and he was
To the
quoting
court?
scripture. Yes.
Okay.
He was quoting scriptures that
Ugh.
touch not my anointed, do my prophet no. And you're the judge, you could, but really only God can judge me. But when that sentencing came down, he gave him as many years as he could. And I think the judge made it clear his rationale was because he felt like that Whitehead was dangerous.
The judge thinks he's dangerous. All right, so a lot of people in the chat have been following it. We came to know him because of the Larry Reed lawsuit that he filed, and no, the infamous robbery.
Hmm.
But let's go back to the case that you looked up that got him 6 years in prison. Is it Sing Sing?
It was in Sing Sing, I believe he was in prison.
That's a hard prison. Okay. Like you don't get there for no reason. And a lot of us, and I don't even know if you can fill in this kind of blank. If you can answer this, he's done some outrageous things, and we're going to get to those. Just absolutely outrageous. But if you could kind of tell us where he's coming from, what kind of mind do you think why? Why?
I wish I knew why, but it seems like, so the first account of anything in his name that I noticed was there was an issue when he was at in college in Mexico, like Mexico University, and there was like a forgery claim, and that came up during the sentencing. So the forgery, though, I believe he was able to pay it and it got dismissed. But that's college, so that was kind of a younger,
Yeah, yeah,
age.
yeah.
And then from there, it just,
Escalated.
yeah, it just escalated.
And then they say, I don't know, I've never been to prison. Prison doesn't really rehabilitate. It makes you a better con artist. And so it looks like maybe he fell into that trap because he got out and he's kind of still living a life, allegedly. Do I have to say allegedly, of
Yeah,
crime?
we
'Cause
say allegedly.
he's currently indicted.
He
Uh,
is.
so let me start with the latest thing, and then we'll kind of work our way back
Okay.
because something very big happened on Friday. Was it Thursday or Friday?
It's been going on since December. There is an issue with the church building, and that's what I've been covering on my platform recently, almost daily, just to get the word out. that so there was a church, their name is Glory of God, and they've been in this building since 2014. Some issues happened with the title in 2018 where someone else ended up taking over the title. However, that's a whole nother issue that has nothing to do with Whitehead. But this church remained as occupants in this church for a
Okay.
number of years.
Okay. Oh,
Never
years.
removed, never evicted, nothing. So
Okay.
then in September, it was a show cause hearing where someone called 5904 Trust Avenue was trying to kick them out of the premises. They didn't say who the trustee was, it just was the trust name. So the lawyer came in, tried to argue to kick them out. The judge was just like, no, because what happened is 5904 Trust Avenue bought this property in a tax foreclosure sale. So, they
Okay.
have redemption periods and all of that. So it had just happened like 7 months before or something. So the judge was like, no, you haven't followed the proper procedures to evict them. This was in September 2022. No, you can't kick them out. So they got an order September 6th, 2022. Fast forward December, this is the article that many of us saw that I tripped me off to what was going on in this case was in December 14th, Whitehead comes with, they say the NYPD. He
Ooh.
comes with a group of I guess people, or overseer and somebody to take the locks off of the building. So how the pastor knew about this of the church that they had came despite this order in September, he comes with the NYPD and everybody takes the locks off the building. So the pastor said he had just went to the church that day and he left and the alarm goes off. So he goes back to the building and he sees all this stuff happening. And I don't know what paperwork, if any, he showed the NYPD. That's been my question that I've been asking, like, where's the paperwork? What did he show you to cut these locks off? Because at this time, there was just that September order that we know of. So basically, he's able to get into the church. And that's the church you guys see him worshiping in on Sunday, is that church he cut those locks off. So then December 16th, the church, Glory of God, they filed for a show cause in landlord tenant court because you were locked out. You were illegally, kicked out, self-help. That's treble damages typically. So they go in, the court gives them another order and says, listen, you have to let them back in the building. This is, you did not rightfully go through the processes of evicting someone. You got them let them back in.
Let
Of
me
course,
explain this to the audience. So basically, he just took over the church and got some false paperwork.
I don't know what paperwork he had. So I don't want to say it was false, but I don't know what paperwork he had. He somehow, we'll get to what we learned,
Okay.
how all this happened. So we'll get there in 1 second. So Glory of God gets another order. This is December 21st, 2022. So they're like, they kind of knew that Whitehead probably wasn't just going to turn it over. So he didn't turn the church over again. So then in January, they do a show cause hearing and they're like, why shouldn't he be held in contempt of court? Because he hasn't turned this building over. And he loses again. Like they go through all of it and they're like, turn the keys over by 5 o'clock. It's in an order. All of this stuff is in orders. Do you know that what Whitehead did was he went over to bankruptcy court and he within 2 hours of that order and filed a bankruptcy on behalf saying he is the trustee of the 5904 trust where the building is in.
Mhm.
So we're all seeing like, well, where the paperwork is that he's the trustee. We're just all confused on my platform. I'm trying to follow it. So, of course, when you file a bankruptcy, for people that don't know, it puts a stay on all state orders and all of that. So now they can't get in the building because now he's filed a stay and it goes to the landlord tenant court and it's nothing that they can really do until the stay is lifted by the bankruptcy court. So then they go to court, the judge gives them all these names, and then lo and behold, someone named Michael Moses shows up with his attorney. He's like listed as a creditor. Whitehead lists a bunch of creditors, Gloria God, the pastors, Moses, a bunch of other people or whatever that I guess is tied to this property. Moses's lawyer shows up and says, Whitehead does not own this building. He has no right to file this petition. So he files a motion to dismiss. Gloria God files a motion to dismiss. The court sets it for a hearing, but before the hearing on March 1st, there is a mandatory conference that you have to have, or they can dismiss your case. So he didn't show up for the mandatory conference on March 1st. This is just last week. He didn't show up for that. So the court didn't just dismiss it. From my understanding, reading the order, based on him not showing up, but said, because I believe you're an ineligible debtor on these motions to dismiss. You're an ineligible debtor. This isn't even a business trust for you to file Chapter 11. This is a family trust. So what are you talking about? Then this man comes in and says he has an affidavit, Sharrell, and he basically says, I never gave him permission for this. Whitehead approached me. This is the trustee for this trust. He said Whitehead approached me in an affidavit. He says, and he said that he was interested in purchasing the building, but he wanted it to be abandoned when he got to the building. So Whitehead, he gave Whitehead a limited trustee power just to do a lawful eviction, and to get purchasing for the building. That was it. They were like, he didn't have any authority to remove anybody unlawfully. Basically, he didn't have any authority to occupy the property himself. He does not own this property. This is what the actual trustee is saying. So the court dismissed his petition. So we're like, okay, yeah, they're going to get the building back, right? Because now the bankruptcy court has dismissed the petition. The stay is going to be lifted. We can go back to the landlord-tenant order, let them go in. So the pastor, he gets the order. He gets NYPD. He goes and he gets a locksmith. He goes to the church. He's like, oh, members came in to watch. They videotaping. I got videos. They're videotaping because they think they're getting their church back. The NYPD says, well, wait 1 minute. We got to call the legal department and make sure that all this is okay. And I'm like, well, where was the legal department when you initially did this in December? So they call the legal department. It takes about 2 hours. The legal department ends up telling them, I guess it's okay. So we have video of the guy actually starting to take the lock off, and then Whitehead sends some guy, 2 guys, I guess, to come to the property, and he comes and debows them and stops them basically and says, no, you can't do that. You can't take the lock off. So he has Whitehead on FaceTime, and they're basically like, call your boss. So everything stops. So the locks they stop work taking the locks off. So everybody's sitting around. There's a bunch of video, whatever that I have. Everybody's sitting around trying to see what's going to happen. Whitehead ends up coming to the scene and everything. And then lo and behold, you're not going to believe this. Whitehead filed another bankruptcy petition.
Okay. Are you serious? You're playing, right? It's like, this can't be true. Oh my goodness. He's very bold. Very bold.
Emboldened. I was like, I would be scared. I'm just like, I know how this system is because I'm in it. And he filed another. And the crazy part is, I'm like, well, how do you even do that? And so it's under a new case number, but just yesterday, the court linked it back to the old one. So there's a hearing on this Thursday because Whitehead's attorney filed a emergency motion to try to set the dismissal aside because he was saying that he had family issues and whatnot, and that's why he missed out on the hearing and whatever. So it's supposed to be a hearing this Thursday, but yeah, he's basically fighting over a church that the trustee said you don't even own.
Well, I have to acknowledge this. We all know that he has close ties to Mayor Eric Adams.
Yes.
They brag about it all the time. The New York Post article, so he's very close. I'm wondering, it's not even a question, I'm just making a statement here. The NYPD always seems to land on his side. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I'm not, because that's what my issue was. I'm like, and that's one of the things I said on my platform. You have a right to due process under the 4th Amendment. How does somebody just take locks off? And then on top of that, when you take the locks off, you start throwing stuff out in the church. You threw some of these people's property out allegedly, because I wasn't there. But I do have posts where somebody put some of their furniture online and was selling it.
I have never heard, 52 years old, of anybody stealing a church. You got to be really, really bold. Let's talk about his relationship with the mayor, who doesn't have such a good reputation himself. Not, trying to be rude or anything. I doubt that he'll even win re-election. But how, as far as how far back does his relationship go with Eric?
My
Adams.
understanding was, I guess, once he got out of prison, see, Eric Adams has only been mayor for 2 minutes. It sounds like he's been mayor for a long time because these connections he's had with some of these sketchy type people has landed him in the paper all the time regarding his
Mhm.
connections because it's some twins or something and that have some past as well that he's always at their restaurant and that's his favorite restaurant and all of that. So he's always in the paper. So my understanding was that around the time when he got out, this was before, of course, he was Mayor Adams would be a rising political person, but he was also the borough Brooklyn president for 20 years. Mayor
Oh.
Adams was, yeah. So,
Oh.
and as you know, Whitehead ran for Brooklyn borough president
Mhm.
as well after Mayor Adams decided to run for mayor. So yeah, that's supposed to be where it was a mentee mentor relationship. And every time Adams is questioned about it, he says, well, I had a troubled youth and he talks about his past and people gave him a chance and he wants to mentor him and he wants to mentor people and that's what his job is. So
Now, this fight over this church is not included in the indictments, is it?
it is not.
He has a he has a whole nother set of issues, serious issues that can land him back in prison. Have you had a chance to look at those paperwork? Those,
I have looked at the indictment. That's been a trip as well. The indictment was there. He was accused of taking $90,000 from a parishioner and with making promises he couldn't keep. Then there was also a businessman that it was alleged it was extortion. Then there was, I guess, there was a warrant that was issued. So when they went to execute the warrant, they asked him about some phones if he had more than one phone, and he said he didn't, and they found more than one phone. So it was like making a false statement. So those are what's alleged in the indictment.
and a parishioner, is it Pauline?
Pauline Anderson.
Pauline Anderson. Um, I hear that his house has fallen in the foreclosure. Does that have anything to do with the bankruptcy? Is it held?
The
Is it going to
bankrupt
be put up for auction? How does that work?
See, the bankruptcy, he's doing it as a Chapter 11, which is a business bankruptcy. It's not personal. His house would be a personal issue. And I
Yeah.
did see a complaint, and all they did was amend it to add more creditors because they want to make sure that they know that they are the first mortgage priority because there's so many different people that are coming after for
Wow.
money.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've served him yet, but yeah, according to that document, he hadn't paid on his home mortgage in a while. But then you also have he had a building out in Connecticut, an apartment building that he said he owned the block, and that one was in foreclosure as well.
Legally, the only job that he has is supposed to be the bishop, right? That's just, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. Isn't that his only form of income? Because he's in $4 million houses. He's driving around in these very expensive luxury cars. How is he even permitted to get access to such lifestyle?
Well, he claims that he doesn't take money from the church.
No. No.
He said he's the real estate investor. I'm just reporting what the man.
Yeah.
He says that's where his money comes from. But I think it's interesting that in the indictment, well, part of his bond, because we know he's out on bond right now from the indictment.
Mhm.
And part of that is he had to get employment. That was part of the bond condition.
Wait, what? Really? Like a
Mhm.
real job or like, I don't know, like something he could do from home?
It just says you have to maintain employment. Yep, it has that like in one of the bond conditions.
Do you know if his punishment is going to be more severe this time with the indictment, considering he's already been to prison before?
Well, typically how like the sentencing guidelines go, because that's what it is, everybody is scored certain points. The more if you have a past criminal record, it is used against you. If you serve time before, it is used against you. There are points. It's different if somebody is a first offender. He's not a first, and honestly, that issue in New York where he served time wasn't the only felony that he has. That's why I really knew I was like, why does he keep making it seem like he's a convicted felon based on being unlawful, wrongfully incarcerated? And then he gives all these technicalities, I guess, as to why the search warrant was stamped and it wasn't signed. Like he gives all these technicalities to why he's wrongfully incarcerated. But he had another case in New York and he had another case in New Jersey where he actually pled guilty to that was a felony. So I don't understand why he was even going around saying, well, I was illegally, incarcerated and that's why I'm a convicted felon, because you probably still would be even if that situation didn't happen.
So he's in a lot of trouble. He's got a lot going on. You got the bankruptcy, you got the indictment, you got the court of public opinion, but he finds time to sue Larry Reed.
Okay? He does.
But he finds time to sue Larry Reed. Have you had a chance to look at that case, and what do you think of that case?
I did. I've had a chance to look at the Larry Reed case, the Judge and Miss Jones. There were three different. Miss Jones is a DJ who talked about him on her radio in New York, and he sued her for $50 million.
Wait, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
At the same time he did Jives and Larry?
It was after Jives and Larry.
For the same reason?
It was talking about, basically on the show, the topic was just pastors in general and money, and just it was in general, and his name came up. It was just a lot, but they filed a slap statute motion too. They just responded with the motion to dismiss. So theirs would actually be done first because she immediately got served because she worked for the radio station. So they filed, their first response was a dismissal, a motion to dismiss. So I guess theirs should be coming up soon. And then you have Larry's, I don't know the date on that. And then I don't believe the other person was even served. So
from what I read, Larry's case looked pretty strong. From your professional opinion, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely off the jump. The first reading wasn't even a statement, it was a question. It's a false statement, that's defamation. There's certain words like scam, sketchy, all of that. If you look at case law, it says that that's not considered, that can't be proven true or false. That's like hyperbole, that's kind of like what it is. So calling somebody that is not defamation. And then everybody's entitled their commentary and opinion. But on top of that, because of the slap statute, as I think we talked about that before, you have the ability, like you have to prove malice. You have to prove that there was some type of contemplation that this wasn't true, and you still reported it anyway. So it's a difficult case. I don't know why they filed it.
Personally. Does he have to prove that Larry Reed somehow made him lose $20 million? I'm just asking.
You're real. I'm trying to be serious here. If it got that, oh God. In every lawsuit, you do have to prove your damages. So yes, if it got that far.
I mean, because he says a lot of things that is just baffling to me. I don't think he's even worth $1 million, let alone 20. But
let me tell you about this case you may not know about that he sued. So there was the Pauline Anderson case. Their attorney, they've kind of had back and forth. It's a lot of stuff that had to do with that. But their attorney, after Whitehead's attorney entered an appearance, apparently her attorney sent Whitehead a FedEx package or something like that had a pleading in it, like was serving them like some documents.
Okay.
And because Whitehead's attorney alleges that because he was already represented, he shouldn't have made any contact with him by serving him this pleading. So he sued the attorney and he sued the firm for, I believe it was $1 million for the pain and suffering, intentional infliction, whatever he said that it was, for serving that document on his client, allegedly.
I don't understand this, but okay, so you may or may not.
They responded with the dismissal as well, and that's still, New York court is so backlogged that it seems that their dates are just, people are getting dates towards the end of the year. So I don't know where that case is, but that attorney wrote his attorney a letter like, I deem this is frivolous. I'm giving you a chance to withdraw before I have to respond and spend money. Because when they sue you as attorneys, we have malpractice insurance. You know, you gotta let your
Oh,
malpractice carrier know that
oh.
somebody is suing you in any capacity or whatever. So yeah, he sent them a letter like, hey, why don't you withdraw this? This isn't, you really don't have any grounds. And he came up with something as to why he did have grounds, and he continued with it. So that attorney, of course, responded with a motion to dismiss and then asked for sanctions. So
Okay,
we'll
so
see.
I don't know if you know this or not. He goes on Instagram every day or Facebook every day and he goes live
Okay.
and he makes outrageous claims and basically says the opposite of what's really going on. Some people might call it lies. He goes on there and he just how is this helping him? And can the things he say be used against him in a court of law?
Did you see those pleadings, Sharrell? You see
No.
how many quotes people use of what he said on the internet and what he said,
No.
and
Oh,
there were links, there were
yeah.
every there were links, there were like, if you want us to put it on a thumb drive, we'll send it to the court. I mean, there were screenshots. Yes, it can be used against them. Absolutely.
Well, then what? Well, I know you can't get in anybody's head, but why are we doing this? Is he using Instagram as a counseling session? I'm just confused of what he's doing because he just says the opposite of what's really going on.
It's almost like some people care about the public opinion more. See, my thing is this, and this is what Whitehead's problem is. So if he's listening, this is what the problem is to me.
Okay.
With what I do with my platform, even though he might think otherwise, saying it's clickbait and all of that, my job as an attorney, and when I started my platform, just to kind of discuss and share, some of my knowledge, I'm trying to be effective. I'm not trying
Right.
to be famous. That's
Right.
that's
Right.
different. So I want to make sure that what I do, I'm helping people, I'm guiding them, I'm, whatever. He's trying to be famous. And when people have that thirst for fame, then sometimes you just can't help yourself. It's almost like, people get up, you're like, let's see what people said about me today. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that concept. So instead of as a bishop or as a pastor, man of the cloth, whatever title he wants to go by, your job is to be effective and to bring souls in. And you're not, that seems secondary in my opinion. It seems
Mhm.
like you're like, I'm ready, I just want to be famous, but you're not, you're infamous. That is the difference. You're known for the things that you have done.
The shenanigans. Yeah.
Yeah, you're known for the clownery and foolery. Like that's
Mhm.
what you're known for. You're not known for, oh my gosh, I listened to his sermon and I just really felt a move from the Lord. Like you don't think that, like listening to his stuff, you're like, oh my God, did he just talk about himself for 20 minutes, then talk about Larry, then talk about everybody else in this video? Like you're not even using it for that purpose. So I would surmise his attorneys at least told him you
Yeah.
shouldn't talk.
That's what they all say. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the
but
first thing.
that's what I say for all my clients.
Yeah. So yeah. Uh-huh. That's
Yeah.
the first thing they do. They say don't talk about it because they could use your words against you. It's really weird. So you said in the first case that he went to court and he was dressed as a bishop, I guess, or a
He
priest.
had the collar, the white collar, the priestly collar that you have. He came in there and we wouldn't have known that because when you look at transcripts, obviously we're not there to see. It
Mhm.
was the prosecutor that pointed it out, like, we've been watching you coming here, you up here coming in with your collar and da 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 da, like as a way of persuasion is kind of how the prosecutor. I was like, no, he didn't come. I thought he got out of prison and became a pastor, but apparently, sometime before that, he must have already gotten his credentials before he went to prison.
That's what I was getting at. So you think he was before he went to prison?
Yes.
So he goes back as far as college with breaking the law and stuff like this. And the only job that you can think of is that he was a real estate investor.
Apparently, that's what he says. He's a real estate investor, and he was doing that prior to, I guess, his conviction. When he went to prison, so that was what he was doing before.
And I know you wouldn't know this either, but after the robbery, he held a press conference. He's holding a lot of press conferences. He was unknown at the time. Why would you hold a press conference? And how did how does
He
that help him?
He couldn't help it. Like once it was posted that people knew about the robbery, he immediately did like talking like, you got, yes, it was real, that happened, that was my church. He immediately like did a live on Instagram, and then he was like, I'm gonna do a press conference with all of, you know, the media and media passes. He had a press statement and everything, because I downloaded it. Like, he had a press statement
But
like
that's
about
for famous people. Like, I can't, like, it's
Sharrell.
so,
Are you saying he's not famous?
I never heard of him. That's what I'm saying. Like, I never heard of him. Like, Bishop who? I never heard of him. So I'm just wondering what's the reason for the press conferences? How does it help him?
To get sympathy, and it went left, because honestly the press conference may have been the downhill, and let me tell you why.
Mm,
Those reporters in New York knew Whitehead. We didn't know, like us
right,
in Detroit, we didn't know who the heck he was. You didn't
right.
know where, you know, who he was. Nobody knew who the heck he was for real outside of that area, because he had some shenanigans where he made the paper before that. So they knew who he was, and being with Adams and, you know, whatever, but we didn't know him. But what happened is, one of the reporters said, what about that $90,000 lawsuit that Miss Anderson filed against you? And everybody's like, wait, what?
A reporter said that?
Yes. And then they went to his house and they saw a $4 million default on the door, which I believe was for the building in Connecticut. It was on the house door. So they talked about that. So they didn't even care about the robbery. You hear me? Like, none of these reporters cared. They started trying, and he kept saying, well, my legal department is handling that. And I can't answer, under the advice of counsel, I can't answer anything that has to do with, you know, my cases. So that's how we found. That's when I looked it up anyway. I was like, oh, who is Miss Anderson?
Yeah. It's
And then
so
I started it,
crazy.
Sharrell, on my channel. I started it, and then I felt compelled. I didn't know it was going to be this extensive, where he was going to have so many cases, because I didn't. It's been so many times. I'm like, y'all want to talk about something else? But then we get engrossed with, we want to see the end. And then with the church
Yeah.
situation, I really wanted to see them get in their building, because I was like, this is just foul. What is this? You know, this is a system that I'm in, and I'm an officer of the court, and it just looked like somebody was dropping the ball in my eyes. So I'm like, I just want to see justice be served in this case. So it just made me want to continuously you know, continuously like follow it. And I'm like, I gotta see to the end. I gotta see till it's a dismissal. So now on my platform, I'm probably going over, I'm not, I mean, not exact. You got Anderson, you have Anderson's attorney, you have Larry, you have the other blogger, you have um the DJ, you have the indictment, you have the robbery still. Nobody
Crazy.
talks about the robbery.
Mhm.
We still have the robbery case, we have the foreclosures in Connecticut, we have the church case, we have it's about 10 cases I'm going over on my platform. So yeah, it does take, like, he's like, people are using my name for clickbait and all of that. It's like, unfortunately, my intellects from my platform, they want to get a conclusion and they want to see what happens in the end.
Yeah.
So we're following it with more paperwork, and you know, than what other platforms may be doing.
So let me veer off of Whitehead just for a little bit, because I'm fascinated by you. What made you
Mhm.
become an attorney?
Well, I actually, okay, so when I had my son, his father passed away when he was 5 years old.
Mhm.
I couldn't afford an attorney, and then what happened was I was trying to do it myself. So
Mhm.
then after I was trying to do it myself, I finally got the money to get an attorney, and then that attorney wasn't doing crap, Sharrell. I was sitting there looking at him like, I'm paying you.
Yeah.
And then we were in probate court,
Mhm.
and when we were in probate court, the judge, I didn't know that this is what they do, but they'll appoint an attorney when you and me and the family weren't getting along. So
Mhm.
it was 20 of them and it was just me.
Mm.
So he appointed an attorney in order to facilitate. That came out of my son's estate. He was his only heir. You
Mm.
know, so it was like, you guys are really taking money from this 5-year-old who just lost his dad and he's not going to ever get any support from him for the rest of his life on any, like, you guys are really fighting. And it was about 20,000 came out of the estate. And I just felt like from that point on, you know, I had thought about it younger, like, oh, that'd be good. That'd be good if, you know, if I became an attorney, but I never got serious about it. And
Mhm.
then after that, it was like, no, I'm about to be an attorney, because I cannot stand people being mistreated or
Mhm.
being taken advantage of in the system. That's why now that I'm 10 plus years in now. So now I can veer off and take cases where people don't necessarily have to pay me up front. I can take it on contingency
Oh, that's
and
so
help people that are wrongfully convicted.
mhm,
I help
mm.
people. I help a whole lot of people that my husband would prefer that I stop sometimes, but help
Oh,
them
it's
out.
so, so, so good. I mean, attorneys, I love them. You gotta have them. They cost money.
Yeah, they
So,
do.
yeah, a lot of
We
money.
deal now, and I don't want to give the impression I'm free, y'all, out here.
No, she said help.
I
She
gotta
said
help.
help. She's not, yeah, take it. So, what made you get a YouTube channel?
I got a YouTube channel because I went on a couple of other platforms. I went on actually King Job's platform,
Mm.
and he asked me to come on about a case. It was a church type case. And then people in the comments were like, "Do you have a channel? Do you have a channel? I want to subscribe. I want to subscribe." So I was like, "Okay, I'll start a channel." So, and my purpose again was just to kind of go through documents and go through pleadings and help people understand. So even if you can't afford an attorney, you know the right questions to ask, because you get some attorneys that you met, they don't pick up the phone. I think that's the biggest complaint that people say is like, that call me, is I haven't heard from my attorney, or they don't know the first steps. So even with that, if I can get you enough, there's some people I know on my platform, I've just given them direction. Even if they can't afford to hire me, I can give you direction. So really, I'm like giving free game to a lot of people on my platform.
You really, really, really are. And no, and it's just I love when attorneys get channels. Matter of fact, I love attorneys. We've had a lot of attorneys on here before, but I like the way you break it down so we can understand it. And
Thank you.
Whitehead's got a lot going on. Explain why the anti-slap law is so important to bloggers.
It's extremely important to vloggers. That's why I broke that down as well, because the purpose of the anti-slap, the purpose that the anti-slap statute, which is in the majority of states, there are some states that don't have them. Actually, here in Michigan, we don't have one.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so there's a lot of there the purpose of it is to avoid people trying to quell your freedom of speech, because what they do is, because they have money, and it started with big corporations doing this. If you found big corporations doing dirt and you decided to post about it, talk about it, tell a reporter about it, they would sue you. Now, how
Mhm.
many people, if you're just a advocate living on, Social Security, can really afford to defend a case? So what the anti-slap did in a lot of states was they made it where, if you satisfy certain prongs, like in New York, it has to be public participation, it has to be on a forum, such as this, and it has to be about issues that are of public interest, and they have to prove malice. They made it that you could file a motion pre-litigation where you can try to get it dismissed almost immediately. And in New York, they actually have it where you shall get attorney fees. So as soon as they dismiss it, you're supposed to be obligated to get your attorney fees back. So the purpose was to stop bullies almost from just suing people because they had money and the little guy did.
Yes, and that's how I won all three of my lawsuits. All three. So that's
That's what
good.
I'm talking about, Sharrell.
So okay, he's got all these lawsuits going on. How long are they going to take? Could he, is a possibility, be sentenced to prison and still have some open that you still got to go back? When is this all going to wrap up? Because it's so many. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, most of the ones that I've seen, like again, the defamations, most of them are probably going to be responded to. I think they have been with dismissals. A lot of them are up for motions to dismiss. So we don't know. It just depends on New York. But can it carry on to him if he's innocent until proven guilty? But if he is convicted or he pleads or whatever, yeah, it may carry on, because that's what happened the last time, because there were judgments that were entered when he went to prison the last time, and you got judgments. Like, judgments is a piece of paper if a person is uncollectible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the place that it appears that it's going, is after a while people only have so much money for you to sue them. So it's like, get in line.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Because that's a lot, and we can't get it all in one video.
That's what I told you, Sharrell. I'm like, listen, it's so much with
It's so
him.
much.
I know that I couldn't. But I think we pretty much covered my biggest what I did want to share since I have the opportunity is the issues with the church is very, very important to me. That's kind of like the first thing on my plate right now. And anybody that knows can share it about what's going on with the church. And for we do have, I think, New York, one of the papers has already contacted them, but the media should be involved. I don't understand why the media wouldn't have picked this up
Mhm.
that this is happening because Sharrell, this church, and this is what kind of, really pissed me off. This church feeds the neighborhood. So they have about a couple of hundred people that come every week. The
Oh,
pastor sent me
wow.
pictures of the lines wrapped around the corner
Oh,
and
wow.
boxes of pantry food that people
Ugh.
depend on out of their pocket, Sherelle. It's not even government. The church
Mm.
pays for that food. And they come there and they get boxes, one of the biggest pantries. And that, of course, is stopped because you want to get into a pulpit with your 5 and a possible members and your knit sweater and try to act like you're some big person when
Mhm.
there's really a community that was relying on this building. Oh, and your musicians that need to learn some new chord patterns. Like, I don't understand why you would even feel just as a human being. You
Yeah.
know, these people are doing great for the community. And you're just like, well, whatever. I'd rather just say, come over here to 5904 Foster Avenue and come to church. And it's like when you start clapping, we hear, I don't hear nobody saying amen. Then you might hear on the video because it don't get me started, Sherelle. Let me just, I'm gonna leave it right there. See, I'm getting offended.
That's true. I mean, he's got a lot of nerve. Um, the things that he does is just, it's just unheard of. I've never heard any criminal be this, well, alleged criminal be this bold.
Yeah,
Like,
me
I'm just
neither.
gonna take your church from you. Like, what?
That's what I said. I'm like, wait a minute. The judge said you're an eligible debtor. This man does a whole affidavit and says, I didn't give you permission. You don't own this property, and you still just keep filing like you filed a bankruptcy. Like, who does that?
Exactly.
I don't
Who
even.
does that? Oh, I'm gonna put your channel up here. Thank
Okay,
you,
thank you,
rumors and
Sherelle. I
thieves.
appreciate it.
Uh, have you heard anything about him proclaiming to have some ex-police officer as his father? And you haven't heard about this? And then when he passed away, he tried to collect some of the
Oh,
insurance
yeah, you're
money.
talking about Arthur Miller. He was an advocate, and yeah, his daughter has spoken out a few times and basically said she didn't hear about him till he was in his 20s, I think, and he contacted them and said, "Hey, I'm Arthur Miller's son." This is according to her. I'm Arthur Miller's son, and I heard you guys got a settlement. I'm gonna need me a Toyota. So, can you get? And she said that this was back in the day. Like they say, he was like the first George Floyd with the choking out with the police,
Mm,
and so this was the '70s. And back then they weren't giving out any settlements. They were like, oh, okay, there go another black person gone. That just evolved where we can sue successfully against a lot of these departments and officers. And yeah, so according to her, and this was in the paper for anybody that wants to look it up. I'm not saying anything you cannot look up. She said that she requested a DNA test. She was in Florida. They said they would fly him to Florida to do a DNA test because I mean that's your daddy. It ain't got nothing to do with the kids. So if you are, you are. If my daddy Creek, even though he was with the mother for years, but
mhm,
apparently his mother was a neighbor or something, maybe lived across the street or something from them.
mhm.
And so they offered to fly him out to get the DNA test. And according to her, he declined. So
I mean, would you say he's kind of shrewd? I mean, that's just or insane. Okay, don't answer that question. But who thinks of stuff like that? Like, I'm just gonna say I'm your sibling and I want some of the money. What?
it's emboldened, the boldness. And the thing is with them, I'm not even gonna say Whitehead isn't smart if you use it for the
The right
right
way, yeah.
way. You get what I'm
Mhm,
saying? That's the
mhm,
crazy part. It's like maybe it doesn't come fast enough. Maybe it doesn't come. So we're like, this is the fastest way because it's a certain lifestyle that he wants to live, obviously. Because how do you have all these documents that say you bought this house, but you ain't paid in a year or two. You bought this building and then you didn't pay after you bought the building and didn't pay for the water on the building. You bought like, and then what do? Just run around ducking and saying, you can't serve me. Catch me if you can.
I
Like,
know.
I don't understand that whole concept, but apparently he's fine with it. So I'm gonna keep on talking about him until it's over.
And this is just me. You didn't say that. This is just how my mind works. I wonder if there is a connection to Eric Adams, because the things that he's doing is extremely bold and he has lots of confidence in it. Like,
well, I heard he always threw his name around. I think even when he was the Brooklyn borough president. So he's been, it's pictures of them on the golf course. They've been in certain circles. Like, he made his way, he weaseled his way into these circles or whatnot. So yeah, I believe he throws his name. That's a scary name, I guess, if you got somebody who is, has some type of political position to some people, I suppose. But yeah, I've talked to people who, even if you look at the article that the New Yorker did, they were almost, some of them were scared or acting like they were scared in the article of them. So there's something but if you see the video, and I'm gonna let you see it, Sharrell, because I have, there's a video where, did you want to see the video? I could show you the one where he debowed into the,
yeah,
it's only a minute.
Okay.
If I could, let me see.
Wow, crazy. A lot. Is it a lot? He got a lot going on, and he's worried about Larry Reed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He'll be the last thing I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Here it is. Got it.
Okay.
What's going on with you, son?
This is from Friday.
Okay. Oh my God.
Go ahead. The police is right there. The police gonna stop him. The police gonna stop him. Hello, don't touch him. The police can deal with you. Don't worry. The police can deal with him. Don't worry. The police can deal with him, man. Don't worry.
Alright, guys, back up. We need ID.
The police can deal with you. Don't worry. The police deal with you. What's up, dog? You good?
He's FaceTiming Whitehead.
Police can deal with you. Don't worry.
Just call your boss, bro.
Call your boss.
Call your boss. Whitehead. Call your boss. Call your boss.
Okay, our boss will
Your boss.
Me.
This is how we operate.
Call your boss, bro.
Tell you this is how we all operate.
How does that make it?
You already got an order ready. Who's he? Please.
Hold on. No.
He's nobody.
I know he's nobody.
He want to bully you guys.
Now you gotta wait for them to
We're just gonna make sure everything is settled out. I'm a boss, huh? You can't do that.
Give me a way to political speech with Whitehead.
Yeah. That's crazy. We get an order from the court. No more white yourself. Come on, man.
Just like he said, they have an order from the court, and they said call your boss, and all that stopped. And you see the big guy, that's the one from Whitehead that came.
It's so weird. He's so tall. The guy, I couldn't write a better movie.
Like,
yeah, I know. He really did. Like, this is some gangster film. What is happening? Well, listen, Pam, thank you so much for coming. You're gonna come back because
I will.
Will you? Because there's so much more. We just covered the basics. We got to get detail. I'm sure the actual nervous breakdown is coming soon. We got to talk about that. We got a lot.
I definitely want to celebrate when these people get their church back. Hopefully, because yeah.
How long has it been? They need their church back.
They got locked out on December 14th, and they've had 2 orders since then, and haven't been able to get. Now, some people high up in New York that have, I guess they're supposed to somewhat try to intervene, but I haven't heard anything yet. So I'm just waiting on the family to tell me. Again, there's a hearing on Thursday. So maybe this will come up again on Thursday. So Hopefully, I hope this week they can get their church back.
Me too. All right, you guys, follow Pam's channel. It's called Pam Esquire.
Yep. It's
Pam
ESQ.
ESQ.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's going to be following the case. We want to know what happened. We want to follow the Larry Reed story. We want to know if the people get their church back. I just want to know everything because this is just, I've never seen anything like it before. And so please come back and let's just keep us all updated on what's going on.
I will. Thank you for having me, Sharrell.
And I really
I've had a good
appreciate your
time.
channel that
Thank
breaks it down so we understand in layman's terms what in the world is going on. Because we already got a double talker. The law language can get very complicated for us commoners.
Yeah, and I'll probably be back on today because his attorney, Whitehead's attorney, just had a motion denied again by the court in his criminal case. His attorney.
What time are you coming on?
Motions. It'll probably be about 8 o'clock
Eastern
Standard. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Pam. Hang on tight. You guys, please don't forget to click that like button on your way out. Go to her channel, check out what's going on. Leave your comments in the comments section. We've been following this guy for a long time. And so we know how he is. Now watch him go on tonight and lie. No, I'm just kidding. Watch him change the interview around.
Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Forget the paperwork.
Yeah. All right, Pam. Let's say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye.